Well, Zara, it's really good to see you. And I see that you come from northwest England, at least for quite a lot of your time. You came from northwest England. I'm in northeast England, probably even further north than you were. Where were you when you were a young person, apart from USA and Cuba?
Hiya. It was up near Manchester, between Manchester and Liverpool, so Wigan, Lee area. Lots of rugby, lots of football, lots of brass bands.
Right. Yeah, many's the time I got off the train at Wigan North Western. Is that your?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not my local. We actually don't have a train station in Lee, but been to Wigan many a night out.
And where were you at school then? Locally somewhere there?
Yes, I went to Lowton High School. It was just the school in the local area, state school. Did the regular GCSEs, then went to college in Winstanley College, which was, I guess, up slightly more towards Liverpool. A lot of the schools in the local area fed into there.
Yeah, it's an interesting part of the world, I think, because you've got those two great cities, and the old, what it was called, the West Lancashire Road that connected the two together. Yeah. Now I think superseded by the M62. Okay, and then you stayed relatively local for your first university course.
Yes, I went to the University of Manchester, initially as a law student. Stuck it out for 2 years, enjoyed it, but followed my heart's desire into English literature and studied that for 2 years and got my degree in English literature. Got to spend 2 years just reading, analysing books, which was joyful.
Yes, and interesting, but you came away also by having done the law bit first with another little qualification.
Yeah, the certificate in law. If you complete years, then there's several levels of certification, which I wasn't aware of until this happened to me. But I think if you complete, I used one of those years to count towards my degree. And one of those years meant I could get a certificate. Alternatively, I think I could get 2 middle ones, which was 2 years, but I wanted the degree, so sacrificed one of my law years for that.
Even so, you came away with it. I mean, amazing sort of good mixed qualification. So tell me, when you were doing reading English, now it's interesting, you said about analysing books. I remember saying to someone once, oh, I wish I'd read English at university. They said, oh no, you're much better to escape it, because once you've read English at university, you can never enjoy a book again because you always want to analyse them. Is that true?
I can see some truth in that. I remember using Spark Notes quite a lot, just to get through the quantity of books. I think it was 3 books a week, which seemed impossible at the time, especially as one of mine was philosophical books, so a lot of niche and those kind of things, which were like 1,000-page per tome, so kind of felt impossible to read it and really understand what they were trying to say to you.
Yes, that's quite a lot to read, isn't it? I've just read a biography, and it was 700 pages long. And there were moments in where I thought we could have done with just a bit less detail in this particular part of the book, but there we are. Yes, so, and who do you, when you were doing this, was it mainly novels you were analysing, or?
You're making me think back now, Stephen. Yeah, mainly novels, some poetry, and occasionally some creativity as well. One of the courses I did was creative writing. So I focused on creating short stories in fantasy and science fiction genres, which was quite fun. As part of that, we got to write them, bring them in for critique, and meet other authors as well, one of which was Neil Gaiman, which was amazing, to meet someone who's like at the forefront of writing books and of his genre. So that was a great experience for me.
And if you were, look at surveying the scene a bit, I mean, if I said, who would you say will be your 2 or 3 favourite novelists, perhaps across the board, different periods and so on?
Oh wow, that's what a question. I'm not sure I have an answer for you, to be honest. I really enjoy exploring new writers and different writers. And so I kind of try and not hold favorites. This might just be an excuse for me not remembering any names of authors right
No, but I
now.
mean, and how
But
about the classical writers, people like Dickens or Hardy or Jane Austen? Did you have to read them?
not very much, actually. I was very much a Jane Austen reader as a child. I have a set of all of her books and read them. And Hardy definitely came up in the degree once or twice. But since then, like the new and upcoming writers, I think talking about, because issues come up that are relevant to modern day and voices are brought to the front, which were maybe not allowed to come to the front before. And so in that way, it's almost nice to just keep reading new names all the time rather than sticking to kind of tried and tested.
And is that true of poets too?
Oh, I'm not sure I've gotten a lot of knowledge in poets to be able to give you a good answer to that question. I haven't read poetry for a long time. Maybe
So
something
no,
to take up this year.
no. Well, I don't want to turn it into an examination for you. It's just interesting to know. You know, only when I was in Wakefield as the bishop there, our local poet was Simon Armitage, who's now the poet laureate and professor of poetry in the University of Oxford. So he was quite interesting to hear
I
him
do think
speak.
it's, sorry to interrupt.
No, go on.
It's just made me think about, I was watching Joe Biden's inauguration, and the poet who spoke there, a new voice, a voice that's come out and just reached so many people that might not have been reached by traditional poetry, making that powerful poem about forging towards the future. And when you were talking about poetry, that came to me as actually that poetry is right up there and is reaching people, and the rhythm of poetry used in that way as well is what makes it reachable, kind of like music.
Yes, absolutely. And you can say things in poetry, and in a funny way, you can say things in music that you can't communicate in any other way. That's, I think,
Yeah,
one of the
totally.
remarkable. Yeah. Now, but then Manchester didn't finish off your education, because you then went on to do a project management course at Oxford Brookes. Was that what you did there?
I have got project management, but that comes years later. Oxford Brookes, I applied to do an MA in publishing, which is how I came into contact with the stationers.
And through a bursary?
Yes.
Indeed.
I applied for the bursary to help me go and achieve that course, without which I don't think I would have had the monetary flexibility to meet the deadlines, put everything into it that I did, and make it successful. So that was a great day when I started there and also got the bursary and entered the stationers community.
And was the publishing course interesting?
It was. There was a few publishing courses at the time, but not as many as there is now. And I remember there was a top few I was deciding between, and I applied for the Oxford Brookes one because it's very practical based. And I did find that was true to its word when I got there. It was very much do on the job mentality of all the key aspects of publishing: editorial, marketing, sales, design, production. And that's where I got my love of production from. One of the teachers there, Adrian Bullock, was the production professor, and we went to visit a printing mill and absolutely loved it. He said you could tell he was going to be in production as soon as that trip happened, because you could see the reactions of everyone who went there. And yeah, I guess that's, once I finished there, I did start my first job in production. in publishing.
So where did you live in Oxford while you were there? Did you live in Headington?
I did. At the top of the hill, just right next to the campus. Yeah.
Very good, because I was a curate. That means a sort of, assistant priest. My very first thing after I'd been ordained was in Headington at St Andrew's, which is the ancient church, sort of to the north of the main road in the old little village of Headington. Lovely part of Oxford. Yeah.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah. And then you went on to your first job?
Yes.
Which was with, with Macmillan? Yeah, it was.
Yes, they're an ELT publisher. I was working in the most junior production role, which is reprint controller, looking after all of their reprint books for English language learning. And that was distributing out to all the world. Lots of government authorities in Palestine and places in the Middle East where people want to learn English as a second language. And that was really great. Lots of children's and adults language resources, learning the ropes, talking to printers and finding out all the different ins and outs that you don't realize when you're reading books comes from that department who's deciding what cover you have and what ink is being used and how it's going to be bound together. Really interesting.
Yeah, that really is interesting, isn't it? In the way how a book is sort of crafted and created finally. And where were you based in London for that, or where were Macmillan's?
Well, originally I was there on the cusp of their move to London, which was an interesting time for me. So they were originally based in Oxford, actually, and they decided to consolidate the office to London. And so I joined as that move was happening and spent 2 months in their Oxford office whilst living in London. So I commuted by the Oxford Tube bus to Oxford every day to go there until they moved to London, and then it was in King's Cross.
It's a great service, that, isn't it? I've used it a lot, either the Oxford Tube or the I can't remember what the other one was called now, but they were both really good.
Like Stagecoach, was it?
Something like that, and you could do it very quickly, really quickly.
I developed a very good skill about falling asleep promptly as soon as I got on the coach.
Yeah, very wise, I should think. Yeah, and yes, and then Dorling Kindersley, was it?
Yes.
Now, the only ones I know, books I can remember immediately are, they do a very, very good series of travel guides. I can't remember what they're called now.
I was going to say, I think that's one of some of their most famous books, are the travel guides.
Yeah, and they're very good because you get at the front, there's a map of wherever it is, with split into areas, and then each area is covered in the book, and then that's split again. It's very accessible. Are they mainly educational publishers?
Very mixed, actually. This was my first step into a publisher that does many different types of books. And so they did have a travel section, but also a life section where they did encyclopedias and information about different topic areas, and also children's books. And the area that I worked in, which was licensed books. So this was a lot of film franchises where we were making books that went along with the films. So Star Wars, Disney, Marvel Comics. So that was great fun. I did that for several years. Really got to play around with making the books look as great as possible, but to tight deadlines. They had to meet that movie release date, so that was another interesting curveball.
How interesting! It's very interesting, and I think the whole business of putting together to make a book look good is quite interesting, isn't it? Thinking now, and presumably you had a whole department, did you, of people who were experts on images for the front covers and.
Yes, we had a what we called a creative team, which was your editors and designers working together in-house, which is, I think, something that Dorling Kindersley for a long time did quite uniquely. Don't want to get slapped down for that comment, but having that in-house department where they're really making it was something they were really proud of. And so yeah, they were in one department and we would be there advising on how we can use foil to make that design pop out even more, or how we can emboss or deboss that cover to make maybe the superheroes look like they're jumping out of the page, but all within budget as well. So let's not go too crazy. A lot of the time just trying to curb that amazing imagination that the designers had to something that was going to be cost effective.
Interesting, yes. And then I'd not asked how long you spent with each of these, but that doesn't really matter because you then moved on to Bloomsbury.
Yes.
And Bloomsbury are enormous now, aren't they?
Yes, they're just continuously growing and becoming even more predominant in the market, I think, really challenging that space. That was quite a different experience for me because I moved areas and went more into the technical team side of things. So I was the systems analyst there and doing a lot of supporting those core publishing functions with making sure that the systems they needed to make those books were right, and processes, and dealing a lot with special releases. So if we had a new Harry Potter book we wanted to go out, what we needed to put in place there to make sure it came out when we wanted it to make that, well, pop into the market that would reach the people it needed to reach and get to where it needed to go.
So when you say systems, can you give me an example of what you mean by a system in
Yes.
that context?
So a major one in publishing is one called Biblio, which is a bibliographic system. It retains all the records about key aspects of the book, title, ISBN, things like this, descriptions, but also all marketing copy. And then within the back of that system, it links to, I guess, coded streams where we would be able to send it to Amazon or online booksellers and things like that, which is really what's making it run at the moment. So rather than a paper pitch to a bookshop, we're sending data to online retailers to say when something's ready and what copy we want and the individual ISBN, so that we can then click buy on Amazon or click buy on Waterstones and buy it. And so it's managing that data in there so that the book comes across to the buyer, to the reader, as what it is accurately, and it's put in the right place. So if you go into fiction or on Amazon, you're not going to see a biography or something like that. So yeah, making sure all that data is correct. So that's one example. Other
So
ones
that's
would
really
be
quite
shipping.
You need to be able to, as it were, cope with fairly sophisticated digital stuff, I assume.
Yeah, which was a great learning curve for me. That was when I did the project management qualification, and I'd voluntarily got involved in that system as part of my job at DK to learn more about it. And so this was an extension of that extra learning I had been doing at DK to move more into that space and really learn technical skills and kind of help push towards that future state of publishing where we're having to embrace that a lot more.
And then you moved to Hachette. Now, do they also own, do Hachette own Hodder and Stoughton?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, I think they do. And Hachette sounds like a French company, is it?
I think its mother company is French, yeah.
Right. And now you were doing different things again at Hachette, or?
Similar but different. I was a business analyst there, so still within the same department of systems, but now working on more generic projects, kind of helping the company to run. So finding out what requirements people needed for systems, but also new things. So I worked on a couple of projects there, where we were implementing new systems for rights, and also for a different one that I've completely forgotten now. But it was more trying to gather requirements, helping on projects, and so a step even maybe further removed from publishing to help those everyday actions happen, if
And
that
then
answers the
from
question.
there you went to Finance Unlocked, and that's
Yes.
very recent, really, last November. And are you now doing different things yet again?
Well, in some industries, what I'm doing now would also be called business analyst, but I'm a product manager. It's a different industry ish, in that we're a learning platform. We create videos currently for finance professionals to learn about different financial concepts. We're still quite small, so it's a startup. We're in our 3rd year, and so lots of growth for the years ahead, to grow, develop, spread out into different areas, finance being the main one at the moment, but with a lot of ambition for lots of more different areas to kind of help people empower through learning. So providing content in an easily accessible way. We kind of make videos which are unusual from the norm. And my job there is I manage the product from all different angles. So I link with everyone in the business to know how we're marketing it, how we're selling it, how we're building new features. And a lot is understanding who our customers are, who's using it, what do they need from it, and making that happen for them as much as possible so that they have this great learning journey. They get everything they need to get, they can learn in their own unique way. And so, yeah, it's a bit different, but I'm absolutely loving it. It feels definitely like a strange progression, but also the right one. So I've ended up somewhere that really fits me, where I get to talk to everyone, build something that's really adding value to people's lives, and just be talking to those learners all the time to see what their pain points are, and to see if we can help take those pain points away.
I think the next question ought to be, when are you starting up your own publishing company? Because you've got such a fantastic background there. I'm sure you'd be able to do that, but that might be for another conversation. Otherwise, it could take us quite some while. We ought to be getting towards the end, I think. Otherwise, I'll be told that, as ever, I've gone on for too long. But let's come back to stationers for a minute, Zara. And has it been, you've been in the young stationers and done lots of things, really.
Yeah.
Has it been a profitable and a good thing for you?
I've really enjoyed it. I guess I've been in it through several stages now and seen it from different angles. So I think Lewis is the 4th chair of the Young Stationers since I've been part of it, and I've just seen it grow in so many different ways since I've been here and met so many great people. So when I was in my bursary, John Peacock was my mentor, and just having access to that was so amazing. And the wealth of experience through my time with the Society of Young Publishers, I met David Hicks, who was just a great inspiration, and also brought me to some stationers events. And it was just great to see that branching out into the industry the stationers is doing. And every time I've been to a dinner, it's just been such scintillating conversation with everybody. I've seen it as just such a valuable community in my life, and something that I'm really glad that I got involved with.
That's wonderful. Just to hear that. Well, I think my thing is to say to you, when you've got your own publishing company going, then you then need to come along to stationers and give us a few lessons on the next things we need to be doing. It's a good time to be doing it, with the hall being refurbished and so on. So anyway, it's been wonderful talking to you, and I'm sorry that we're running out of time. but maybe we'll actually meet properly in the relatively near future, and we can pick up some of the things that we didn't have time for now. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Steve. It's been great. Thank you.